She brought her boyfriend to our anniversary dinner. Thought I'd break down. I just folded my napkin and walked out. She had no idea it was the beginning of her end. Let's begin. My name is Marcus Grant. I'm 42 years old. I design hospitals for a living, quiet, calculated, patient. I'm the kind of man who fills your gas tank in winter before you notice it's low. The one who double-checks the locks every night and never forgets an anniversary, even when it feels like the other person has. For 12 years, I was married to a woman named Rachel. Rachel Monroe Grant. She used to be my person. She had a laugh that could derail a train of thought. Hair like copper satin, always up in a bun with pencils sticking out. She read novels cover to cover in a day and whispered good night in the softest voice imaginable. That Rachel? She vanished long ago. Lately, she lived on her phone. If we had dinner together, she was texting someone else through it. Conversations faded into one-word replies. She said she was tired a lot, yet always had energy for Naomi time, or extended yoga sessions, or boutique shifts that somehow turned into late-night smoothies. Still, I didn't press. I just told myself it would pass. When she offered to plan our 12th anniversary, I thought maybe she was trying again. She leaned across the kitchen island, her tone unusually warm. "Let me take care of everything this year," she said, sliding her hands around her coffee mug. "Just dress sharp and come hungry." I want to believe in that tone, the one I hadn't heard in months. So I did what she asked. I put on a crisp navy blazer, the one that still had dry cleaning tags. She emerged from the bedroom in a royal blue dress that hugged her waist like it had a secret to tell. I told her she looked beautiful. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. The car ride downtown was light. She hummed to herself, tapped the beat of the song on the steering wheel. There was a strange joy in her, bubbly, almost theatrical. I glanced at her more than once. She didn't notice. She wouldn't tell me the restaurant. "It's a surprise," she said. "Someplace unforgettable." She wasn't lying. We pulled up to a rooftop spot I'd never been to before, Hilaria. The kind of place with crystal chandeliers and violin covers of pop songs playing in the background. One glance at the prices told me this dinner was meant to make statement. I followed her inside. The hostess greeted us by name. "Mr. and Mrs. Grant, this way." Table by the window, overlooking the water. Candlelit. Romantic. Rachel ordered wine without looking at me. Her fingers danced across her phone. "Everything okay?" I asked. She smiled. "Too quickly. You'll see. Just wait." I waited. Appetizers arrived. Tuna tartare, lemon scallops. The kind of food we only ate when we were pretending life was shinier than it was. Then he appeared. Tall. Early 30s. Designer blazer. Loafers with no socks. Hair slicked like an audition for a reality show. He walked in with a swagger that made my stomach turn. He scanned the room, eyes landing on us like it was rehearsed. Rachel stood up like she'd just seen a celebrity. "Marcus," she said softly. "This is Bryce." She didn't even look at me. "He's important to me." I stared at her. Then him. Bryce offered his hand. I didn't move. "What is this?" I asked. No anger, no raised voice. Just quiet, razor-sharp clarity. Rachel sat back down. Bryce took the seat beside her, the one I now realized was left intentionally open. She placed her hand near his, not quite touching. "I didn't want to lie to you anymore," she said, her voice steady like a woman reading from script. "I met Bryce 4 months ago. He makes me feel alive again. This isn't about hurting you. I just thought, you deserve to know the truth." I looked at both of them. The skyline shimmered outside the window. Inside, everything stilled. "You brought your boyfriend to our anniversary dinner," I said, evenly. Rachel nodded. Her smile was brittle now, her confidence shipping. I wanted honesty. "That's not honesty," I said. "That's performance." Bryce smirked, just slightly. A man who thought he'd won something. That's when I raised my hand. I flagged the waiter. "Just the appetizer and my drink." "I'll pay now." The waiter blinked. "Yes, sir." I paid in cash. Neatly. Left a tip. Folded my napkin like I was tucking away 12 years of marriage. Then I stood up. Rachel looked surprised. Not guilty. Not sorry. Surprised. Like she expected me to scream. Or cry. Or beg. "Thanks for the clarity," I said. Then I walked out. Didn't turn when she called my name. Didn't flinch when I heard Bryce chuckle behind me. In the elevator, I pressed the button for the ground floor with a hand that didn't shake. 12 years dissolved in a single night. But that wasn't the end. That was the spark. I didn't go home right away. I drove, aimlessly, for hours, through the neon pulse of the city, past diners glowing with warmth, gas stations lit like interrogation rooms, and streets I hadn't seen in years. I didn't blast music. I didn't call anyone. I just drove. When I finally did go home, it was 2:17 a.m. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't welcome you. It accuses you. Her purse wasn't on the hook. Her shoes weren't by the door. I didn't sleep in our bed. Couldn't. I grabbed a pillow, a blanket, and shut myself in the guest room, the same room she once used to paint watercolor postcards she never mailed. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the tick of the hallway clock, trying to breathe through the silence. 12 years of routines clung to the walls like static. The smell of her hair product still lingered on the pillowcases. At 6:12 a.m., I emailed Ava Sterling, my lawyer. Subject line: need to initiate divorce. Ava was quick, efficient. She'd helped me navigate a property line dispute 2 years ago when a neighbor tried to claim an extra 4 feet of my driveway. Her reply came less than 30 minutes later. Understood. Are there any children involved? I typed, no kids, just history. She scheduled an in-person consultation for the following day. I deleted Rachel's contact from my favorites, but I didn't block her. I didn't need to, because she didn't come home that night, or the next. No calls, no messages. But on day 3, the text started. At first, they were polite. Rachel, can we talk? Please. I didn't expect it to go like that. Rachel, you walked out like it didn't matter. That's not you. That's not fair. I didn't reply. Because what do you say to someone who thinks betrayal deserves a conversation instead of consequences? By day 5, she got bolder. Rachel, you think silence is strength? You're just running away. You should have fought for me. For us. That one almost made me laugh. She thought I abandoned the marriage. She thought introducing Bryce, on our anniversary, was fighting for us. Her delusion was stunning. By day 7, she showed up at the door. I was sorting through the mail, bills, ads, an old subscription renewal to a photography magazine I hadn't read in a year, when I heard the knock. She didn't use her key. She stood there on the porch in a gray sweater and jeans, arms crossed. Her hair was tied back. No makeup. Her posture unsure, like she didn't know if I'd even open the door. I did, but only halfway. I leaned my shoulder into the frame, keeping her outside. A boundary, both literal and emotional. We stood there, quiet. The wind tugged at the hem of her sweater. Marcus, she said softly, can we please talk? I didn't move. I didn't want things to come to this, she added. I wanted you to understand. I stared at her for a long moment, then said the only thing I had left to say. You made your choice at that table, Rachel. Now you live with it. She blinked like I'd slapped her. Then she turned and left. No more text for a while. But peace didn't last long. 2 weeks later, I got a letter. Certified mail. Return address. Law office of Michael Crane. I sat at the dining table, the one we bought from that little antique place in Whidbey Island, and opened it. She was demanding sole ownership of the house, $3,000 a month in spousal support, half of my retirement accounts. Her reasoning, that she paused her career to support my ambitions, that she now suffered emotional distress due to my sudden abandonment. I stared at the paper for a full minute before calling Ava. We're going to fight this, I said, with everything I've got. Ava didn't flinch. Then let's start collecting. I began pulling bank records, email receipts, messages, calendars, all the breadcrumbs she left behind while she waltzed around with Bryce. Then something unexpected happened. Naomi called. Yes, Naomi. Her best friend. The one who always took her side. She left a voicemail. Her voice was low, nervous. Marcus, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I need to tell you something about Bryce. Please call me back. And that's when the real story began, the one she never saw coming. I met Naomi the next afternoon at a quiet corner cafe called Timber and Sage. Not our usual spots, too public, too risky. This place was tucked off a side street, hidden behind a bookstore, filled with grad students and decaf drinkers. The kind of place that didn't ask questions. She looked different. No perfectly straightened hair. No loud nails. No curated designer look. Just jeans, a hoodie, and nervous eyes that couldn't hold mine for long. Thanks for meeting me, she said as I sat down. I didn't reply. I just waited. She sipped her drink, fingers trembling against the ceramic. Look, I didn't know if I should say anything. But it's gotten out of hand. I tilted my head slightly. Start talking. She glanced around the cafe, then leaned in, voice barely above a whisper. Bryce isn't who Rachel thinks he is. He's not even who you think he is. I didn't blink. I just let her speak. A friend of mine, Melissa, dated him last year. Same guy, different name, same act. He charmed her fast, told her he'd never felt anything like it. Moved in after 2 months. Promised her the world. Naomi's eyes darkened. He drained her savings. Wrecked her credit. Borrowed 10 grand to invest. Then disappeared. Vanished like smoke. She opened her purse and pulled out a folded paper. Bryce's dating profile. Different alias. Same photo. Same smug smile. I took the sheet without a word. Rachel wouldn't listen, Naomi added. I tried to warn her. She said I was bitter, that I didn't want her to be happy. My jaw tightened. And now, Naomi's voice cracked. Now I think she's going to get destroyed. And she's too deep in to see it. I stared at the table for a long moment, then looked up. Thank you, I said, and I meant it. Not because I forgave her for blindly siding with Rachel all those years, but because I could see the guilt clawing through her chest. And sometimes a kind of weight deserves a bit of mercy. Back home, I handed the file to Ava. She flipped through the evidence, nodded once, then said, let's bury them in truth. The mediation was scheduled for the following Thursday, 9 a.m., downtown, 4th floor conference room, floor-to-ceiling glass, cold chairs, water pitchers that no one drank from. Rachel showed up first, wearing a sleek cream-colored blazer and that same icy confidence I saw the night she introduced me to Bryce. But her eyes flicked toward me, just a little too fast, just a little too often. And then he walked in. Bryce. Sunglasses indoors. A navy jacket with gold buttons. He looked like he was trying out for a role he wasn't qualified to play. Rachel placed her hand gently on his forearm. His reaction was stiff, barely noticeable. Across from them sat her lawyer, Mitchell Crane, all teeth and theater. Ava sat beside me. Black suit, navy blouse, no wasted motion. The mediator, a woman in her 50s with silver hair and a voice like a neutral clock, called the session to order. Mitchell launched into his opening like it was Broadway. My client, Mrs. Grant, has endured 12 years of emotional neglect. She gave up career opportunities to support her husband's demanding schedule. The sudden dissolution of this marriage has placed her in a vulnerable financial position. He gestured to Rachel. Despite recent personal developments, she remains committed to resolving this amicably. I said nothing. Ava waited, then smiled politely, dangerously. She slid a folder across the table. Let's clarify the timeline, she said smoothly. We have evidence, receipts, GPS data, hotel bookings, proving that Mrs. Grant began her relationship with Mr. Bryce Dawson over 9 months ago, not 4. And during that time, she used shared marital funds for romantic trips, spa treatments, and designer shopping. She placed copies of joint account statements, clearly marked and dated. Spa days at Lucent Wellness. Wine tastings in Napa. A beachfront suite in Santa Monica. Bryce's face shifted, just slightly. His jaw clenched. Rachel opened her mouth, but Ava wasn't done. Furthermore, she continued, we have an email from Mrs. Grant to her friend Naomi dated 2 weeks before the anniversary dinner. Quote, I want Marcus to finally feel small. I want him to know what it's like to be invisible. The room froze. Mitchell blinked slowly. The mediator cleared her throat. Bryce turned his face slightly away from Rachel. You followed us. Rachel snapped, eyes darting to me. I didn't speak. Ava did. We followed the facts, she said calmly. And the money. No one spoke for several seconds. Then Bryce broke the silence. He stood suddenly, muttering about needing the restroom. He was gone for 17 minutes. Rachel sat motionless, chewing her bottom lip, eyes glassy. When they returned, everything had changed. The power? Gone. The posturing? Deflated. The story they came in with? Shattered. Mitchell cleared his throat, his voice quieter now. My client is open to negotiating the sale of the house, and even split of proceeds. No claim for spousal support. Ava raised an eyebrow. And the shared debt incurred on personal trips? Mitchell swallowed hard. We'll accept that deduction. I watched Rachel closely. She looked small, tired. Her mascara smudged, her hands clenched in her lap. But that wasn't guilt. It was humiliation. And for the first time, she was tasting it. The same humiliation she served me, on a silver rooftop platter. The air felt thinner when we left that room. I didn't look back as I walked down the hallway. Only heard the sound of Rachel's heels trailing slower and slower behind me. Bryce said nothing at all. His silence was no longer smug. It was fractured, uncertain. Back in my car, Ava closed her folder and slid it onto the dashboard. "That's not a settlement," she said. "That's surrender." I didn't respond. I just sat in the driver's seat for a moment, staring at the skyline beyond the courthouse, familiar and distant all at once. The next few days moved fast. We finalized the sale of the house. Rachel agreed to sign over her claim to spousal support. The clause about deducting her romantic expenditures stayed in. $5,000 wiped off her share. Ava handled it all with the precision of a surgeon. I packed my belongings with quiet determination. I didn't keep the couch. Didn't want the dining table that sat untouched during our final dinners. I left the mirrors, too. Funny how she always needed one in every room, but never used one to reflect inward. The night before the final papers were signed, I got a text from Naomi. "Naomi, just thought you should know. Bryce is dating someone new. Already." No anger stirred in me. No grief. Just clarity. That man never loved Rachel. He just played her better than she played me. A week later, the divorce was finalized. Clean. Official. Irreversible. I bought a small 2-bedroom home outside of Bothell. Nothing fancy, just walls that didn't echo with betrayal. I filled it slowly. Bookshelves. A toolbox. A reading chair by the window that actually got morning light. Sometimes, silence doesn't mean loneliness. It means peace. One afternoon while unpacking, I found a photo album, leather-bound, handmade. Rachel used to make one every year. This one had pages from our first Christmas, road trips, a failed attempt at paddleboarding. I flipped through it with a strange calm. I didn't feel sadness. Didn't feel anger. Just distance. Like I was looking at someone else's life. I closed it gently and slid it into a plastic storage bin, then pushed it into the back of the closet. No ceremony. No second glance. Just a quiet understanding that not all things are meant to be remembered. And what Rachel tried to destroy only revealed how strong I really was. 3 months passed. Not once did I check Rachel's socials. Not once did I ask around. If people mention her in passing, mutual friends, old co-workers, I simply nodded and changed the subject. Some try to bait me with updates. "Did you hear she moved in with him? They broke up, right? I saw her at that wine bar. Looked rough." None of it mattered. I wasn't looking back anymore. Instead, I rebuilt my life on my own terms. Mornings became quiet rituals. A strong cup of coffee. A morning walk. Sometimes barefoot on the back patio, just to feel the earth. I've forgotten how calming it could be. Silence that didn't come with tension. I fixed small things. Leaky faucets, broken cabinet doors, an old radio I found at a garage sale. I found peace in repairs. Maybe because some part of me was also being repaired in the process. People asked if I was seeing anyone. I wasn't. Not yet. Not because I was afraid, but because I was healing, truly, not just distracted. Love doesn't scare me. Settling for less does. One afternoon, while cleaning out a drawer, I came across a folded letter. Not from Rachel. From myself. A goals list I wrote in 2015, tucked away and forgotten. Start a garden. Write again. Take a trip alone. Build something that lasts. It was strange reading it now. Like a message from a man who somehow knew I'd need this someday. So I started. I planted basil and tomatoes in the backyard. Bought a cheap typewriter and began jotting thoughts every evening. I booked a solo trip to Oregon's coast. Walked the cliffs. Ate dinner at diners without checking my phone. Sat in silence without needing to fill it. And I began sketching again. Designs. Not for clients. For myself. A little cabin, maybe, someday, built by hand, with wood that smelled like peace and windows that never overlooked the past. That's the thing people don't tell you about starting over. You don't rebuild who you were. You build someone new, stronger, wiser, quieter, but louder in all the ways that matter. Rachel thought that dinner would humiliate me. She thought she'd crush me by flaunting her betrayal like a trophy. But she didn't break me. She unburdened me. And Bryce? He was never the ending of my story, just a badly written character in a chapter 1 already closed.